After coming out of the shower, a man suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the room. His face was handsome yet cold, and his voice was deep. "If you want to be Mrs. James, behave yourself, or even our son won't be able to protect you." After saying that, he looked me up and down, his eyes filled with unconcealed mockery. I just realized the room I was in had changed its decor. I was so frightened that I turned and ran back to the bathroom. When I came out again, the man was gone, and the luxurious European-style bed had disappeared. Everything had returned to how it was before I took a shower. The room was empty, and the scene from moments ago seemed to be nothing but my own imagination. A cold breeze blew past, and for some reason, I shivered. In fact, this wasn't the first time I had experienced such strange occurrences. Since last month, I've been finding things in my house that don't belong to me. It started with a pair of men's slippers, then a razor. A few days ago, I even found a watch on the dressing table. Out of curiosity, I searched for the same model, Patek Philippe, over 15 million. I suspect this room is haunted, and it's a wealthy ghost. I originally planned to move out when the lease expired, but unexpectedly, there are still half a month left before moving. Something still went wrong. The male ghost has appeared. The next day, I was woken up by a heavy arm pressing down on me. Annoyed, I pushed the arm away and suddenly realized something. My mind went blank for a moment. How did a man's arm end up on my bed? I opened my eyes and met a pair of dark eyes. He stared at me, his face showing undisguised disgust. "You deliberately changed clothes in front of me yesterday, and today you're climbing into my bed. Miss Olivia, your tricks really are endless." His bed. It was only then that I noticed the scene around me had changed again. The originally comfortable small bed had disappeared, replaced by an oversized European-style double bed. The simply decorated room had also become exceptionally luxurious, with the surrounding decorations clearly spelling out the word expensive. My heart raced, and I instinctively tightened my grip on the cinnabar bracelet on my wrist. "WHWH, who are you?" In the next moment, the man's slender fingers pinched my chin, his voice as cold as ice. "Failed to seduce me, so now you're pretending to have amnesia. Olivia, I warned you yesterday. If you want to stay in this house, you need to drop those cheap tricks of yours. I won't make the same mistake twice, or not even Jasper will be able to save you." I didn't even bother listening to what he was saying and reached out to touch the man's cheek. His cheek was firm and springy, but most importantly, his skin was warm. Is it a living person? The man was so flustered by my touch that his furrowed brows could have knitted a sweater on the spot. He grabbed my hand and was about to speak sharply. Suddenly, the bedroom door was slammed open. A little carrot top in overalls rushed in. "Daddy!" But the small figure froze upon seeing me and murmured softly, "Good morning, Mother." His mood clearly dropped. However, I had no time to worry about the child's feelings now. My already slow brain had crashed once again. "Mother, surely you're not calling me." It took me half a day to figure out what was going on. I must have accidentally entered a parallel universe. Here, I'm already married. I even have a 3-year-old son, and the rich ghost I mistakenly thought he was is actually my husband in this timeline. Harry, however, it seems our relationship isn't very good. I spent the entire afternoon wandering around the room, trying to find the Docademo door to go back. However, I was disappointed. I wasn't able to go back until nightfall. I had no choice but to accept the fact that I would have to stay here for a while. However, when I thought about my relationship with Harry, I felt a headache but also a sense of relief. Compared to a harmonious marital relationship, I think this is just right. In the evening, my son came back from kindergarten. The boy was following behind the nanny, chattering away just moments before. He fell silent again the moment he saw me. At an age when he hadn't yet learned to conceal his emotions, the panic and timidity in his eyes were unmistakable. It was the nanny who spoke first. "Madam, you're back from your business trip." Only then did the boy purse his lips and reluctantly say, "Hello, Mother." The boy was very cute, with 2 eyes as round as grapes. Her little mouth is pink and pouty, and in terms of appearance, she takes after me more. This feeling is truly magical. At least in another time and space, I never imagined that one day I would become a mother, and she even looks so much like me. I felt an inexplicable sense of joy and waved my hand to beckon the boy over. The boy hesitated for a moment before stepping out from behind the nanny. His expression still carried a hint of bashfulness. I couldn't wait any longer and scooped the child into my arms, causing the boy's face to flush red as he let out a small gasp. Sure enough, it smells nice. I suppressed the urge to ask his name and rubbed my forehead against the boy's neck. Sure enough, the child's previously somewhat tense expression instantly broke. He grinned and giggled, just as I was trying to take the opportunity to get closer to him. An untimely, cold voice abruptly interrupted. "Jasper, come here." "Dad." Seeing Harry, Jasper was clearly happier. He kicked his little legs a couple of times, struggling to get down from me. Harry looked at me with a guarded expression. He approached me and warned, "You know Jasper is my bottom line." I was slightly taken aback. I didn't mean to do anything. I just wanted to get closer to him. "Put away your sudden maternal affection. He's already been kidnapped once because of you. Isn't that enough?" I don't know." Harry curled his lips mockingly. "Miss Olivia, your acting is truly remarkable." Without waiting for my reply, he carried Jasper and left directly. That night, I tossed and turned restlessly in the guest bedroom. The me in this time and space seems very different from the other me. I'm not sure how long I'll be staying here, but I feel it's necessary to explain things clearly to Harry. At the very least, I need to understand what happened between them in the past. The light in the master bedroom was on. After hesitating for a moment, I knocked on the other person's door. "Mr. James, are you resting?" No one responded. I pushed the door open a crack, but there was no one inside. Frowning, I stepped inside. The sound of running water came from the master bedroom's bathroom. My face flushed, and I was about to leave. Suddenly, the sound of water stopped, and the bathroom door opened. At that very moment, I suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. I don't know if it's an illusion, but the light above seemed to flicker violently twice. When I opened my eyes again, Harry was already standing in front of me. The man had only a towel wrapped around his lower body, and the water droplets on his body hadn't completely dried yet. He had a robust build with well-proportioned muscles. When he saw me, his lips pressed into a straight line, his displeasure evident. Still up to no good. My head was buzzing as I followed his gaze, which was fixed on my plain bed sheet with its blue floral pattern. Realizing something, I straightened my back more and more. "Mr. James, isn't it you who's the thief crying? Stop thief, now, take a good look at where you are. What do you intend to do, sneaking into my boudoir in the middle of the night?" Upon hearing this, Harry furrowed his brows. "What did you say?" Before he could finish speaking, I saw horror on that man's perpetually expressionless face. Thank goodness, I'm back again. The room is exactly as I left it. The cramped space feels a bit more crowded with an extra man in it. I stand opposite him, ready to witness Harry's breakdown up close. However, I was disappointed as he quickly returned to normal. "No wonder he's been acting strange since last night. So you're not her?" Then he asked me, "Do you have any clothes at your place that I can change into?" I glanced at Harry's exposed muscles and quickly averted my gaze. How could there be any men's clothes at my place? Harry instantly understood, then said, "Oh, then you might need to prepare a few sets." Just as I was about to ask what he meant, I saw Harry walk over to my bed. "Single bed?" The question was too abrupt, and I instinctively replied, "No, it's 1, 5M*1, 8M. Harry frowned. "Is it big enough for both of us?" At that moment, I thought I had misheard. Right now, I have no money, no clothes, and no identity. I'll have to trouble you tonight." No, why do I feel so uneasy about this? Is this person being a little too familiar with me? I don't recall saying I'd take you in tonight. Besides, didn't you just warn me yesterday to stay away from you? I apologize. Harry readily complied, but his expression showed no trace of remorse. "I took you in for a night yesterday too. I thought repaying kindness was supposed to be a fine human virtue." "Listen, is this the attitude to ask for a favor?" I snorted coldly, ready to teach the other person a lesson first. Harry seemed to see through my thoughts and said unhurriedly, "Allow me to remind you, I'm not the only one who can travel through time and space. Perhaps in the next moment, you'll be at my place. I suggest leaving yourself a way out before taking action. What do you think?" Wait, am I being threatened? But that's not what made me the angriest. but what made me the angriest was that I actually felt like he had a point. In the end, I still gave in. I gritted my teeth and opened the supermarket delivery app. He picked out a bunch of discounted, cheap men's products, and then his gaze shifted to the men's underwear section. His face flushed, and he said gruffly, "You decide on this yourself." Harry took the phone, and his expression gradually turned a bit strange. "You want me to wear this style?" He looked over curiously and realized that the item he had accidentally clicked on earlier was now displayed on the screen. I was blinded by that huge bullet. That was an accidental touch when handing over the phone. You, choose for yourself." Oh. After paying, the heat on my face hadn't subsided yet. I immediately burrowed into the bed, covering my face. "You sleep on the floor tonight." Harry raised an eyebrow but fortunately didn't raise any objections. Two people who had just met not long ago, sharing a room, really didn't have much to talk about. I had originally thought I would have a hard time falling asleep that night, but unexpectedly, listening to Harry's steady breathing, I gradually grew drowsy. In the end, I didn't even know when I fell asleep. When I woke up again, Harry was nowhere to be seen in the room. I guessed he had already returned to his own time. Just as I was secretly relieved, Harry walked in from outside, his hair slightly damp, carrying a bag of breakfast. The man was tall, standing before me against the light. The morning glow seeping through the window outlined his features even more sharply. The cheap sportswear I bought last night inexplicably looked like high-end couture on him. Faced with such beauty, my heart skipped a beat uncontrollably. I owe 20 yuan to the pancake stall at the entrance. Help me pay it later." The romantic bubble shattered, and my mind was instantly filled with question marks. Why, did I owe you from a past life? I might have really owed Harry from a past life, because after that day, Harry just wouldn't leave my house. I single-handedly took on all of Harry's living expenses. At first, I always bought the cheapest ones, but this person was just too used to a comfortable life and was incredibly delicate. After just 2 days of wearing the cheap stuff, a rash started to break out on my body. That night, I heard someone softly groaning in the darkness. I got up and found Harry lying on the ground, his brows furrowed and his face flushed with an unnatural redness. "Harry." The man seemed not to hear my words, curling his body into a ball. Sensing something was wrong, I took the ear thermometer. 39 degrees. "Harry, don't sleep, come with me to the hospital." The man was woken by my call. "I'm fine." "It's so hot you could boil water." "You're fine, but I'm not. I'm afraid you'll die in my house." By the time everything settled down at the hospital, it was already 4 a.m. I couldn't help but mutter, "It's not like I gained one son, it's clearly two." Lying on the hospital bed, Harry mustered his strength and asked me, "What did you say?" "I say, you really are my living ancestor." A hint of a smile appeared at the corner of Harry's eyes as he shifted to the side. "Come up and rest for a while too." The hospital room was a double room, with each bed separated by a simple pink curtain. At this moment, the private space was occupied only by the two of us. I belatedly felt a bit uneasy and replied gruffly, "No need, you just lie down yourself." Before I could finish speaking, Harry suddenly sat up, wrapping one arm around my waist. He lifted me up forcefully, then rolled me over. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already lying on his bed, half nestled in his arms. I struggled. "What are you doing?" "Don't move, you're about to wake up the person in the next bed." "You go to sleep, don't you have to work tomorrow to earn money and support me?" Why does that sound a bit strange? But in the end, sleepiness won over reason. The next day, I was woken up by the doctor on rounds. I was the only one in the hospital bed. "Doctor, where is the person who was originally lying here?" "Who was here originally? When I came in, you were the only one on the bed." So, Harry went back. Strangely, a sense of loss welled up in my heart. I spent so much money on him, and I don't even know when he'll pay me back. Lost in thought, suddenly the pink bed curtain was pulled open. The doctor glanced back and scolded, "Has the fever even broken, and you're already running around everywhere, and the family too, sleeping in the bed themselves while sending the patient out to buy breakfast. This is not the time to show off your affection." After saying that, he even glared at me, completely baffling. After the doctor left, I complained, "Where did you go?" I bought you a cup of coffee, afraid you'd be sleepy at work. I was suspicious. It wasn't on credit again, was it? No. I was about to ask where the money came from when suddenly a few men in suits walked in. One of them stood respectfully in front of Harry and said, "Mr. James, would you like us to arrange a private room for you?" Harry's expression turned slightly cold. "No need, you can go back first." The other person seemed to want to say something but swallowed their words after glancing at me. "All right, please let us know if you need anything at any time." After the other person left, Harry finally spoke. "They bought the coffee. They seemed to have mistaken me for the Harry of this timeline." He leaned in close and whispered, "I had these people gather 10,000 in cash for me. Keep the money. Consider it my contribution to the household expenses while I'm here." As he said this, he pulled out a thick envelope and forced it into my hands. Winking at me, he signaled for me to keep it a secret. I was completely stunned. "Wait, isn't this situation a scam? This is fucking fraud, isn't it?" After Harry was discharged from the hospital, he came home with me. The rent is about to expire. In the evening, I received a message from my landlord asking if I wanted to renew the lease. I held my phone, feeling a bit hesitant. "What are you doing?" Harry came out of the shower, wearing the gray linen pajamas I had just bought for him, with his long arms and legs. I subconsciously turned my phone face down. "Nothing much." Harry didn't ask further and very naturally walked over to sit beside me. "Let me lie down for a bit." He had just taken a shower, and the scent of body wash still lingered on him. I didn't buy him a separate men's body wash. At this moment, his scent was exactly the same as mine. I never noticed it before, but tonight, with our scents mingling, it felt unusually intimate. I shifted uncomfortably to the side. "Are you still not feeling well?" "Much better." Although it was only early autumn, the mornings and evenings already carried a chill. "Tonight, I'll sleep on the bottom bunk." As I spoke, I stood up, intending to give the bed to the other person. As soon as I moved, Harry chased after me and grabbed hold of me. "No need, the floor is too hard. You'll be uncomfortable." "But you." "Let's switch to a bed." "Ha." Harry looked at me. "I don't know when I'll be able to leave. I expect to stay here for a while. I mean, if you don't mind, we could switch to a larger double bed, one that can fit both of us." His tone carried a hint of suggestive ambiguity, and I almost instantly understood the underlying implication behind Harry's words. One side of the man's face was hidden in the darkness, while the other was outlined by the soft glow of the lamp, highlighting his handsome features. His eyes were like water, captivating and stirring the heart. At that moment, I seemed to hear a faint, almost imperceptible heartbeat. The clock ticked, and the room had unknowingly become filled with traces of Harry. A section of the wardrobe was taken up by men's clothes. A man's toothbrush hung in the crowded bathroom, and a pair of black slippers lay scattered in the corner. I could clearly feel emotions surging and things spiraling out of control. "No, it shouldn't be like this." I quickly averted my gaze. "I just remembered I forgot to write a work plan. You rest first, I'll work overtime for a while." Fled in a panic. That day, I hardly slept all night. I reflect on my relationship with Harry. The more I interact with Harry, the more I realize he isn't as cold and rigid as he appears. He can cook, and to my surprise, he's quite skilled at it. Since he arrived, I haven't ordered takeout even once. He has a strong sense of boundaries, even though the two of us are squeezed into a small room, but I never felt uncomfortable because of it. I remember one time I suddenly received a notice to work overtime and was busy until the early hours of the morning. It wasn't until I left the company that I realized it was pouring rain outside. At a loss, I heard someone calling my name. In the darkness, Harry was standing outside my company, holding an umbrella. "Why wasn't your phone working?" "It ran out of battery." "Why did you come?" "Can't sleep, taking a walk." Lies. The company is 10 kilometers away from my home. Who would take a walk here in the middle of a rainy night? At that moment, I couldn't describe what I was feeling. I felt as if my lonely soul had found a brief refuge. This was a completely new experience in my over 20 years of life. Because of the presence of one person, seemed to have a home now. The sky was turning pale. Harry lay on his side with his eyes closed, his long eyelashes resting on his eyelids. I gazed at him almost greedily. "Harry is wonderful," so wonderful that I almost envy the version of myself in a parallel universe. It's just such a pity, after all, I am not her. I renewed the lease, with the $10,000 I tricked out of Harry. Meanwhile, I rented a small apartment elsewhere. I didn't tell Harry about this. I had a feeling he definitely wouldn't agree. On the weekend, I invited Harry out for a meal. Harry teased, the penny-pinching miser is willing to splurge. Did something good happen? Before you say that, take a look at who bought all the clothes you're wearing. It was you, Your Majesty. Harry winked at me. So, should we put this meal on the tab? Hearing that, my face flushed red. I have a little notebook where I specifically record how much money I've spent on Harry. The original intention was to calculate when I might have the chance to get it all back. Principal and interest. This one doesn't count. This one is my treat. As the meal was coming to an end, I received a message from the moving company. Miss Olivia, your belongings have been moved. Closing my phone, I felt a bit uneasy. Harry. I lowered my head and said, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. I'm planning to live separately from Harry. I've been thinking about this for a long time. Harry has $10,000, and I'm currently living in a studio apartment that only costs $500 a month. After paying last month's rent, there's still $5,000 left. This should be enough for you to live on for a while here. Time and space won't overlook someone who doesn't exist. You'll eventually be able to return. Harry understood the implication in my words. Everything is already settled, the house is rented, and now you tell me you want to discuss it with me. Harry curled his lips sarcastically. You went through all that trouble to lure me out just to make it easier for you to move, didn't you? How considerate of you. If you wanted to get rid of me, you could have just said so. I know how to take a hint. You didn't have to go to such lengths. I don't mean it that way. I just think we're not really a couple after all, and this situation makes me feel guilty towards another version of myself. Guilty. Harry chewed on the word for a moment, then chuckled lightly. Miss Olivia, your excuses are truly creative. I thought the you from two different timelines might be different, but it turns out you're just as selfish. He stood up. You don't need to give me the remaining money. I'm sorry you had to endure sharing a room with me all this time. After saying that, Harry was the first to leave. After he left, I felt like a fish drained of water, sitting in my seat for a long time without being able to get up. The newly rented apartment is not far from my company. After parting ways with Harry, my life returned to its usual routine of shuttling between 2 points. There's nothing wrong, except for feeling a bit lonely. On Monday at work, my colleagues in the department gathered together discussing something. In the lively discussion, I vaguely heard the name, Harry. My ears perked up, and I leaned in closer. Who are you talking about? Our group's president, Harry. He's finally reappeared after being gone for a year, and now the entire business world is in an uproar. You said our group's president. What's his name? Olivia, you've only been with the group for half a year, right? No wonder you're not familiar with these rumors. My colleague explained to me. He disappeared for a whole year, and there were all kinds of rumors online at the time. Some said he was sick, some said he went abroad, and others claimed he had actually died. With the company suppressing the news, no one knew where he had gone. My ears were buzzing, and my hands trembled slightly. Do you have a photo of him? He held a press conference this morning. I'll send it to you. He's very handsome. When he first took office, I couldn't process the rest of what was said and clicked on the video my colleague had sent. A week later, familiar faces appeared on the other side of the screen once again. So, in this timeline, Harry is my boss. Just as I was about to turn off the video, Harry in the video suddenly reached out his hand. His sleeve lifted slightly. Then, on his exposed forearm, I saw a patch of red marks. It looked like a rash that hadn't faded yet. Because of that rash, I barely slept all night. The location of Harry's allergic rash was exactly the same as the Harry in this timeline. Is there really such a coincidence in this world? A few days later, the group headquarters held a banquet. General Manager Hank was invited to attend and requested that I accompany him. On the way there, I was constantly uneasy, worried about running into Harry. If it were that unfamiliar Harry, it might be okay, but if it's really the one I know, thinking about our unpleasant parting in the past. I curled my fingers in embarrassment. As it turned out, I was overthinking. Harry, being the CEO, didn't even dine with us at all. I was forced to stay by Hank's side the entire evening. I was even made to drink a few glasses of wine. By the end, I could clearly feel that I was a bit unsteady on my feet. The driver had already arrived outside the hotel. Hank didn't get in the car. I'll take you home. No need, President Hank. Hank leaned against the car door. Olivia, do you know how many people fought tooth and nail to attend tonight's group banquet just to network? But I specifically chose you. Do you know why? I nodded numbly, because no one is willing to work overtime. As a result, Hank seemed to have misunderstood me and stepped forward, grabbing my hand directly. I knew you were smart. At that moment, goosebumps shot from the soles of my feet all the way to the top of my head. He suddenly pulled his hand back. What are you doing? Hank gave a look to the driver in front, who opened the car door and tried to pull me inside. I never expected Hank to be so audaciously bold. I wanted to struggle, but my body seemed to stop obeying me. My legs went weak, and I nearly collapsed to the ground. Hank quickly reached out to steady me, then placed his hand on my shoulder. A young girl with no connections or background will find it hard to climb the ladder. Meeting me is your good fortune. Even if I were foolish, would have realized something was wrong with me. Did Hank put something in my drink? I was scared and tried my best to push Hank away, but even with all my strength, I couldn't move him an inch. In utter despair, a cold hand suddenly reached out from one side. It grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, and I fell directly into that person's embrace. The familiar scent of shower gel rushed into my nostrils. I have never been so obsessed with this scent at this moment. On the other side, Hank also staggered due to the sudden external force. The distorted, chubby face changed expression upon seeing the newcomer. Mr. James, why have you come out? I came to soak up some good fortune. Hank gave a dry laugh. This is one of our female employees. She's not used to big occasions and had a bit too much to drink. I was just saying, it's lucky she ran into me, otherwise, it could have been dangerous. As he spoke, he took a couple of steps toward me. Mr. James, if there's nothing else, I'll take her back now. After all, I'm the one who brought her out, and if anything were to happen, I wouldn't be able to explain it. No need to trouble yourself, my wife. I'll take care of her myself. Your wife. Harry's face completely turned cold, and he no longer engaged in hypocritical pleasantries with Hank. He took off his suit jacket and draped it over me, then picked me up in his arms. Even after getting into the car, Harry's expression hadn't softened. He scolded me. Do you know what kind of person Hank is? He tells you to drink, and you just do it. At your age, you still don't have any sense of self-preservation. I could only see Harry's mouth opening and closing, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. I leaned in closer. I'm not feeling well. Acting cute won't help, do you know? Before he could finish, I wrapped my arms around Harry's neck, her face pressed against his lips. Then she let out a satisfied sigh. I want it. As if someone had pressed the pause button, Harry froze completely. Olivia. I didn't answer, just kept rubbing against him vigorously, calling his name. Harry finally realized something was wrong, his expression turning stern. He said to the driver, "Take me to my rental apartment." My consciousness became very blurry after that. I only knew that Harry took me to the apartment we used to live in together, then he kept peeling me off of him over and over again. I think I heard him say, "So you were drugged back then too?" Then he said to me, "Be good, hold on, I'll take you to the hospital." It seems he also said, "We already missed our chance once in that timeline, we can't make the same mistake again." I had no idea what Harry was talking about. I only know that I feel terrible. I vented by clawing at his back, forcing him to kiss me. By the end, Harry was also a bit breathless from the teasing. "Tell me, who am I?" My voice was choked with tears. "Harry, hurry up and help me." Harry finally gave in and kissed my lips. "That really won't do, let me make you feel good in another way." As he spoke, his kisses trailed downward and stopped at a certain spot. Then, as my body relaxed, I gradually calmed down. I don't know when, but I was so tired that I fell asleep. In my dream, I faintly heard someone calling me, "Mom, Mom." Is that Jasper? I searched for the source of the sound. and then I saw, myself, to be precise. It was myself from another time and space. She looked exactly like me, but she appeared haggard, with several scars on her wrists that looked like cuts. The next second, Jasper rushed over on his short little legs, but the other person pushed him away, saying, "I told you not to call me Mom." Jasper was terrified and froze in place. My heart ached as I wanted to hold the boy in my arms, but my arms passed right through Jasper's body. I suddenly realized that I was watching the past of myself in another time and space from a third-person perspective. The scene shifted, and I saw myself taking little Jasper to the zoo, hand in hand. Both of them seemed to be in a good mood. However, shortly after, a dilapidated van pulled over, while Pet was buying cold drinks. Jasper was forcibly taken away by a man. From a God's eye view, I saw the man's face. It was Hank. The scene that followed became very chaotic. Inside the sealed metal compartment, there was an unconscious Jasper, and Harry fighting with Hank, and me, lying in a pool of blood. In the end, everything here was engulfed by soaring flames. Jasper. I jolted awake and met a pair of worried grape-like eyes. "Mother, are you feeling unwell?" Jasper. I blinked and looked around at my surroundings. I had returned to another time and space. The dream was so vivid that I was convinced it couldn't be an illusion. It suddenly occurred to me that Harry is also a celebrity in this timeline. Perhaps there might still be old news articles online. Sure enough, after searching, a report titled, "Harry's son kidnapped, father rescues child from fire and survives," appeared on the screen. The article detailed the entire process of the case from back then. The above stated that Hank, a former employee of the James Group subsidiary, dissatisfied with the company's layoffs, kidnapped Harry's son in retaliation. During the rescue operation, Hank, in desperation, set a fire. Fortunately, Harry arrived in time, rushed into the flames, and saved his son. After the incident, 3 bodies were found at the crime scene, one of which was the suspect, Hank. The other 2 bodies were severely burned and could not be identified. Only known to be 1 male and 1 female, the police judged them to be Hank's accomplices. The bodies were not accomplices at all. They are Jasper's biological parents. They are also the versions of me and Harry in this timeline. Then who did I meet later? My hand trembling slightly, I asked Jasper, "Jasper, where is your dad?" "Dad is on a business trip." "Does he often go on business trips?" Jasper first nodded, then shook his head. "Mom, when will Dad come back?" "Last time you were on a business trip for a year before coming back. Will Dad be away for that long too?" Why hasn't he called Jasper? All the cause and effect seemed to connect. The day Jasper's parents died was the same day Harry accidentally entered the time tunnel. He rescued Jasper and then lied, saying his mother was away on a business trip. A year later, I accidentally entered the tunnel and naturally became the mother returning from her business trip. No wonder the nanny's first words upon seeing me were, "Madam, you're back from your business trip." At night, Jasper lay in my arms. After a few days of companionship, the little one had grown increasingly close to me. "Jasper, do you blame your mom for not treating you well before?" Jasper shook his head. "It's not Mom's fault. Dad said that Mom is the one who loves me the most in the world. Mom is just sick and can't control her emotions." "Mom, you're all better now, right?" Holding the boy tightly in my arms, my eyes welled up with tears. "Yes, Mom is all better now." Jasper breathed a sigh of relief, rubbing his eyes and snuggling closer into my embrace. "Mom, I kind of miss Dad." "Mom, I think I miss him a little too." It was 2 months later when I returned to the present timeline. That day, as soon as I woke up, my first instinct was to reach for the child beside me, but instead of touching the soft little one, my hand brushed against something hard. I grabbed a few handfuls with my eyes closed, then heard someone say, "If you keep touching, I'm going to charge you." I suddenly opened my eyes and found myself lying on the small bed in my rented room. Even more absurdly, Harry and I were tightly embracing each other, and my hand was even resting on the other person's chest. Instantly awake, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." If you can be so accurate without meaning to, if it were intentional, wouldn't I have lost my innocence today? "Oh, that's not right." Harry seemed to think of something. "My innocence was taken by you long ago." A certain not suitable for children scene from 2 months ago rushed into my mind, and the belated embarrassment was about to make me disappear on the spot. Just as I was about to speak, a childish voice came from under the bed, "Mom, why is Jasper sleeping on the floor?" Then, with a trembling voice, "Where am I? Where's my mom?" I quickly got out of bed and picked Jasper up in my arms. Harry's sarcastic voice echoed in my ears. "I told someone to get a bigger bed, but she refused. Now her own son is sleeping on the floor." The room is exactly the same as the day I left. On the table are the bottles and jars I didn't take with me. On the sofa are a few stuffed toys I left behind. The closet is stuffed with clothes I bought for Harry. Even the toiletries on the vanity are exactly the same as they were in the past. "You still live here?" I thought Harry would have moved out long ago. With such a big house, why would he choose to live in this cramped space? Harry just snorted lightly. "If I leave, what will someone do if they can't find their way home?" Hearing this, I lowered my eyes, hiding an intense emotion that was almost impossible to conceal. Jasper was the calmest about this time travel. The little one didn't understand anything about parallel universes or time travel theories. He only knew that he had seen his dad. Excitedly, he asked me, "Mom, is it because you miss Dad so much that you can't stand it, so you brought Jasper to see him?" I looked up and met Harry's meaningful gaze. I quickly said, I don't miss him. Mommy is lying." Jasper pouted and complained to Harry, "Last night Mommy clearly told Jasper that she missed you, but now she's too embarrassed to admit it." I was speechless. "Good son, please say less." After all, it was Jasper's first day entering the parallel universe, and we were worried that something unexpected might happen. Decided to stay one more night in the rental apartment. After his bath, Jasper happily rolled around on the small bed. Then he announced, "I like it here." I asked curiously, "Why?" Jasper grinned and said, "There's only one room here. Jasper can sleep with Mom and Dad." Then he muttered, "All the other kids sleep with both their mom and dad, only Jasper doesn't." Harry and I exchanged a glance, then quickly looked away. Neither of us knew how to explain to Jasper that although we are his biological parents, we are not actually a couple right now. It wasn't until after I started working that I found out Hank had been fired. He was involved in several cases of sexually assaulting female employees, was found to have illegally transferred company assets, and was also involved in the illegal sale of prohibited drugs, with multiple charges combined. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. He won't have a chance to get out again. "So you also knew that Hank intentionally drugged you back then?" Harry shook his head. "At the time, I only suspected that Hank had financial issues, so Harry fired him. But after seeing your condition that day after the banquet, I realized something was off. It turns out there was more to the story between them." In another timeline, Harry and Olivia ended up spending a passionate night together due to a series of misunderstandings during the Hank incident. Later, Olivia became pregnant, and the two were forced to marry. As a result of this series of events, Olivia developed severe depression. Because of this, Harry drove Hank into a corner, ultimately leading to a desperate act that resulted in tragedy. I couldn't help but ask Harry, "Actually, there's something I'm a bit curious about. Do you think they ever had feelings for each other?" Harry hesitated for a moment before answering, "I don't know." By the time I rushed in, Harry was already unconscious. All I know is that the last thing he did before he died was use his final breath to crawl to Olivia's side. Their bodies were found embracing each other. I couldn't help but sigh. It was the way they met that was wrong. If it weren't for that night, perhaps they could have met normally, fallen in love, and gotten married. Harry hesitated for a moment, then took my hand. "So this time, are you willing to get to know me again in the right way, through a proper relationship?" I looked up abruptly, meeting Harry's eyes. September, kindergarten starts. Jasper still hadn't managed to return to his original timeline. Harry and I were thinking about getting Jasper registered in this world, afraid that Harry might be too shy to bring it up. I took the initiative and said, "How about we just register our marriage directly?" Harry was not happy about it. "Don't even think about using Jasper as an excuse to take shortcuts. I've said it before, we're going to do this the right way. Normal dating, a proper proposal, and then marriage. Not a single step can be skipped." Harry had an inexplicable stubbornness about this matter. "What should we do then? how about registering it under my name? I don't have parents anyway, so it's just me on my household registration. With an unexpected 4.5-year-old son out of wedlock, aren't you afraid of being gossiped about by your colleagues? Promiscuous lifestyle, having a child for money, failed attempt to become the other woman, I can already imagine how outrageous the rumors about you will be. Then what do you suggest we do? In this society, people are much more tolerant of men. The next day, everyone in the company found out that Harry himself had a son. Everyone was speculating about who the child's mother was. To be able to have a child for our Mr. James, she must have saved the galaxy in her past life. As for Mr. James, I'd be willing to do it for free, no strings attached. I wonder if Mr. James is hiring a stepmother. I'm fully qualified for the job. Stepmother +1, I'm signing up too. In the evening, Harry brought Jasper along, and the father-son duo came to pick me up from work. I was afraid of being seen by my colleagues. Just park the car near the subway station, and I'll walk over. Harry wasn't willing. What, am I not presentable? Too many stepmothers. I'm afraid they might fight over Jasper if they see him. Harry, Jasper, stepmom, what stepmom, mom, are you leaving Dad? Then I choose you. Jasper doesn't want a stepmom. Harry was speechless. When Jasper was in first grade, Harry proposed to me. That day, Jasper seemed even more nervous than Harry. In the evening, the three of us went out for dinner. During the meal, a cake was served. I originally intended to give it to Jasper, but the boy repeatedly waved his hands in refusal, looking at me with hopeful eyes. Mommy eat, Mommy eat. Then, while I was eating, he reminded me, Mommy, eat slowly, don't bite the ring Daddy prepared for you. But before I could say anything after he finished speaking, his eyes gradually reddened, and then he burst into loud sobs. Oh no, I accidentally spilled the surprise, woo-woo. It left Harry and me both amused and exasperated. As we scrambled to comfort the little one, it wasn't until I promised that I wouldn't reject his father's proposal because of this that he finally calmed down. That evening, Harry gently rubbed my ring and sighed with a smile. The cake proposal was Jasper's idea. I don't know what drama he watched, but he insisted I do the same. Now that it's turned out like this, are you a little disappointed? I snorted. You're the one benefiting from your son's idea, you know. The year Jasper was in 5th grade, I got pregnant. Actually, having a baby wasn't part of Harry's and my plan. Both he and I were afraid that the pregnancy would disrupt some kind of space-time law. I'm not willing to take this risk. We didn't tell Jasper about this and privately decided to terminate the pregnancy, but somehow Jasper suddenly found out about it. He said, Mom, do you know, the first lesson Dad taught me since I was a child was about parting. If you choose not to start because you fear parting, that's the behavior of a coward. Mom, I don't want to be a coward, and you shouldn't be one either, okay? 10 months later, the baby was born. Fortunately, it's a girl. We named her Sarah James. The once mischievous child seemed to grow up overnight after Sarah James was born. He even turned into a devoted brother. Almost every request Sarah James made was met. When the little girl was 3 years old, Sarah James took a liking to a cloth doll. At the time, I thought there were too many toys at home and didn't have space for more, so I didn't buy it, which made the little girl cry and throw a tantrum. Later, I bought a small cake to calm her down. Everyone had forgotten about this matter. But a month later when I returned home, I suddenly noticed Sarah James sitting in the living room, fiddling with an unfamiliar doll. It was a gift from my brother to Sarah. Sarah James clung tightly to the doll, refusing to let go. I later found out that Jasper couldn't bear to see his sister upset and had actually saved up half a month's breakfast money to buy her the toy. Jasper became even more proud. If she can't get married, then she won't. I'll take care of her for the rest of her life. However, before Sarah James grew up, Jasper broke his promise. Jasper's disappearance happened on an ordinary morning. He said he felt a bit dizzy and never came out after returning to his room. I don't know if Jasper had a premonition himself. In his room, I found a letter. Dear Mom and Dad, by the time you read this letter, I have most likely returned to the world that belongs to me. In fact, Dad told me a long time ago about the secrets of time and space. I also knew long ago that you are not my biological parents. I often feel that I am the darling of time and space. because of this special encounter, I had an incredibly perfect childhood. I cherish every day I spend with you. I often secretly pray that if only I could stay by your side forever, but it seems that all good things must come to an end, and the stolen moments of happiness have finally reached their conclusion. There is too much sadness, and too much reluctance to part. The only comfort is that in a world without you, I can still live on with abundant memories. By the way, there is something I'm afraid I won't have the chance to say if I don't say it now. Mom and Dad, you are the best parents in the world, and I will always love you. If my sister wakes up today and asks where her brother has gone, please tell her that her brother has gone on a trip. When I return, I will bring her the sweetest candy, the biggest flower, the cutest hair clip, and the prettiest doll, your eternal time-traveling son, Jasper. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My sugar daddy went bankrupt. I took my card and went to find him, saying, "Now it's my turn to support you." He sneered disdainfully, "You think you're worthy?" Later, he made a comeback. "I'm so happy that I can get money for nothing again." He pitifully said, "Honey, can I apply for a permanent position?" I searched for Lucas for 10 days and finally found him in a private room at the bar. At that moment, he was being pinned to the ground by a group of people and forced to drink heavily. I rushed over like a madman, wanting to help him up, but several men stopped me. "This is no place for you. Get out of here," he yelled. Even at a time like this, he was still thinking about my safety. "Lucas, get up. I'm quitting this job. I'll take care of you." I'm not joking. Over the years with Lucas, he never treated me poorly. In fact, he could be considered a generous patron. He paid me $200,000 a month, covered my food and accommodation, never restricted my freedom, and showed me respect, unlike the degrading treatment often depicted in TV dramas and novels. Except for when he needed me, I was free to do whatever I wanted. We each got what we needed and never interfered with each other. Over the years, I've saved up quite a bit of money. Oh, your little lover, your sweetheart has gone bankrupt. Why not come play with me instead? The red-haired man in the lead lifted my chin with a frivolous gesture, his face full of lewdness. I recognize him. His name is Leo, a second-generation rich kid. He used to be a business rival of Lucas, but later got completely defeated and had to declare bankruptcy. "Don't touch her." Lucas struggled to get up. Leo stomped on his back, forcing him back down hard. "Fine. Lucas, the big CEO, wants to play the hero and save the beauty. I'll grant your wish. As long as you finish all the drinks on the table, I'll be merciful and let her go today. There are dozens of bottles of high-proof liquor on the table, and that could really kill someone. Don't listen to him. My friend will be here soon." Before coming in, I called Fiona, and she's on her way here with some people. Leo was provoked and grabbed a bottle of liquor, pouring it over Lucas's head. The alcohol flowed down his neck, completely soaking his clothes. "Ha ha ha, everyone, come and look. This is the once untouchable President Lucas. Now he's just lying at my feet like a dog." There was a burst of laughter all around. Lucas built his business empire from scratch, step by step. In the eyes of outsiders, he was always composed, calm, and imposing. Never had he been in such an embarrassing situation. When Fiona arrived with others, 2 police officers followed behind her. Seeing the chaos at the scene, they immediately shouted to stop it. Leo said it was just friends fooling around, and the police asked us if it was true. Lucas didn't deny it. Leo's family has some connections, so even if he were taken in, he would be released by the next day at the latest. The matter was over. I let Fiona go home first, then turned and followed Lucas out. The weather was getting colder, and he was only wearing a soaked shirt. Just looking at him made me feel cold. "Don't follow me. I don't have any more money to give you now," he said coldly. "I have money. If you're willing, I'll take care of you." Lucas stepped closer to me, his dark eyes like cold pools. "What? Are you here to humiliate me too? Do you even deserve it?" Heaven and earth bear witness, I truly did not mean to insult him. I just felt he needed help, and I happened to have the ability to provide it. Thinking about it, it's quite laughable. In just a few years, our positions have completely reversed. When my mother was sick and needed money, I worked as a drink promoter at a bar and was forced to drink. He happened to be there, saved me, and asked if I wanted to follow him. Lucas was quite handsome, had a good figure, and the conditions he offered were satisfactory, so I agreed. Over the years, I used the money he gave me to cure my mother's illness, opened a cafe, and saved up a considerable amount. These are all he gave me. Even on the eve of his bankruptcy, he made sure to transfer the house I lived in to my name, calling it a settlement fee so I could live well in the future. Now, I simply want to help him. But he doesn't believe it. After going bankrupt, Lucas rented a place in an urban village. He wouldn't let me in, so I had to squat by the door pretending to be pitiful. The residents in the urban village were very diverse, and people coming and going kept staring at me. From one of the rooms came the ambiguous sounds of a man and a woman. "Hey girl, how much?" A creepy old man asked me. Am I being mistaken for a prostitute? I frowned and dodged away, but he reached out to touch me. The door behind me suddenly opened, and I was pulled inside by Lucas, who clamped his arm around mine. "Get out." Before closing the door, he shot a cold glare at the old man. Lucas had just finished showering, and his body was still steaming with heat. He wasn't wearing much, just a pair of sweatpants. As if I couldn't feel the cold, he pinned me down on the sofa, rubbing my lips hard with his thumb. His gaze was terrifyingly deep. "Are you that eager to be fucked by me?" Lucas, at times, just loves to use crude language. I felt a mix of shame, anger, and annoyance, but not enough to be truly furious. After all, we've shared a bed more times than I can count. "Fuck, can you come home with me?" "Which home?" "My home." He sneered, still not giving up on your thieving intentions. I really was, not to mention wanting to help him, but just in terms of his skills alone, I was quite satisfied. His gaze gradually took on a lustful hue, the atmosphere grew ambiguous, but then, his stomach let out an untimely growl. I hadn't been eating well while searching for him all this time, and now I was hungry. "I'm hungry," I said. He let out a helpless sigh and got up to look for food. "Only instant noodles." "You don't cook yourself?" Opening the fridge, all I see is alcohol, nothing but alcohol. He used to be picky about food, insisting on a balanced meal with both meat and vegetables for every dinner. It's hard to imagine he can now tolerate eating instant noodles every day. I don't want that. I want to eat a proper meal. Eat it or don't. He turned to leave. I desperately held on to him, almost hanging off his body. Annoyed by my pestering, he finally took out his phone to order takeout for me. "What do you want to eat?" "Chicken." He looked at me thoughtfully. We're both adults, so I understood instantly. This jerk. After ordering the fried chicken, I transferred 1,000 to him. He's already bankrupt, yet he's ordering such expensive things. How many days' worth of dinner would that be for him? Want me to live off someone else? No way. As expected, he still didn't accept it. The portion of the takeout was very large, and Lucas ate it with me. "Is this the best meal you've had in days? Stop talking nonsense and just eat." A chicken leg was stuffed into my mouth. I took my time eating for 2 hours before finishing, then checked the time. It was already 1 a.m. Oh my, it's so late. As a girl, is it really safe for me to go back now? Lucas saw right through me but didn't say anything, just tossed a shirt my way. "Shirt seduction, I like it. You can have the bed, but get the hell out of here first thing tomorrow morning." Trying to kick me out, not that easy. I put on my shirt, only buttoning 2 buttons, aiming for that subtle, revealing look. I deliberately paced back and forth in front of him, using every excuse I could think of, but Lucas remained motionless on the sofa. "Are you blind? Why isn't he pouncing on me already? If this were before, we would have already gone at it for 300 rounds. Leave now if you're not going to sleep." He turned his back to me. Hypocrite. I squeezed onto the sofa and wrapped myself around him from behind like an octopus. "Let's go to bed together. It's so cramped here." He's over 6 feet tall, curled up on the sofa with his legs unable to stretch out. "Go down." "If you don't go, I won't either. Let's just sleep like this." "I came here not to make you feel wronged and lose sleep." He didn't move, and neither did I. Just as I was about to fall asleep, my body suddenly felt weightless, followed by a soft sensation. I wrapped my arms and legs around the furnace beside me, refusing to let him leave. he pushed me, cold, I muttered. He paused for a moment, then turned and pulled me into his embrace. In the darkness, I smiled silently. The next day when I woke up, Lucas was gone, and he wasn't answering his phone. After eating the breakfast he left on the table, I decided to go home and pack a few clothes. It seemed he wasn't going to leave with me anytime soon, so I had to settle in here for the long haul. Little did I expect that this bastard had locked the door from the outside. My hands are red from knocking, and I've already yelled, but there's still no response from inside. Then don't blame me for resorting to unconventional methods. I turned and went next door. The layout of this building places the two adjacent units close together, with a small platform in between. I plan to climb over through the window. No, if you fall and die, I'll be held responsible. I tried hard to squeeze out 2 tears, but I'm carrying his child, and now that scumbag wants to deny it. The neighbor girl took pity on me and found a rope to tie around my waist, with the other end fastened to the bedpost. When Lucas saw me appear on the balcony, his face turned pale, and his voice was filled with anger. Are you out of your mind? Don't be afraid, I'm tied with a safety rope. I untied the rope from my waist to show him. Crazy woman. Hey, your girlfriend is pregnant. Be a man and take responsibility, you scumbag. The girl next door spoke up for me. Lucas's expression shifted repeatedly, but he didn't deny it, pushing me into the room. She's pregnant with my child. You really don't even need to prepare a draft to lie. If you want, we can start making a baby right now. Shameless. We're an old married couple, what's there to be shy about? Lucas keeps saying he wants to kick me out every day, but I'm thick-skinned, so he can't do anything about it. I dragged him along to buy daily necessities, like rice, oil, meat, and vegetables. He drinks with every meal, almost as if he's drowning his sorrows in alcohol. If he keeps drinking like this, his health will eventually break down. I locked the alcohol in the cabinet, only allowing him to drink 1 can a day. Stop meddling in my business. From now on, I'm going to control every aspect of your life. Who do you think you are? I'm your sugar daddy. I slammed the bank card on the table with a loud smack. Lucas didn't even glance at it. Did I agree? There will come a day when he cries and calls me daddy. I think, even the hardest and smelliest stone will eventually be warmed up one day. But as it turned out, Lucas was even harder than a stone in a cesspit. He actually ran away. I just went out to check on the shop, and he was gone. The landlord said he's moving out and asked me to move as soon as possible. I'm furious. This cunning, despicable man, he has already blocked my number, so I can only message him through various social media accounts. Send to everyone you can think of. I'm by the river now. If you don't come by 8 tonight, I'll jump. I even recorded a video and sent it to him, with a sorrowful and desolate voiceover. The mosquitoes by the river were relentless, and as I scratched the bites, I cursed Lucas to hell and back in my mind. I'll remember this. 8 o'clock sharp, and still no sign of him. What a heartless man. I sighed and had no choice but to walk step by step into the river. Just 1 step away from entering the water, Lucas appeared. He came out from behind the big tree. There were 2 red bumps on his pale face, indicating he had been there for quite a while. Quite capable, aren't you? Think you're acting in an idle drama, playing the runaway little wife of a domineering CEO. Playing the deep, anguished love game with me here. We've got the persistent pestering, the stubborn refusal to yield. What's next? A car accident, amnesia, or a terminal illness? If I hadn't shown up, would you really? Do you think I'm stupid? Isn't living well enough? Why would I want to die? If you hadn't come, tomorrow I'd hire 10 or 8 male models, living the high life every day. You look down on me, but they don't. Lucas's face turned ugly. Don't even think about it. To avoid me, he even gave up his apartment and had no choice but to follow me home. The place I live in is the one he transferred to me, 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms, exquisitely decorated. He said I was supporting him, but he refused to take my money and slept in a separate bed. He insisted on going out to find a job, saying he needed to pay the rent. All right, at least he's starting to act like a normal person, which is better than being idle and depressed at home before. Lucas has the ability and the means, with a unique vision. whoever hires him is essentially bringing a god of wealth into their company. If it weren't for his betrayal by a close friend this time, the company's IPO would have been just around the corner. Try to find something, and if you can't, just come back, I'll take care of you. I don't want him to put too much pressure on himself, he replied indifferently, no need. Dog man, in the business world, there are many discerning bosses with a keen eye for talent, and Lucas was quickly hired by a large company. He left early and returned late every day, the epitome of a standard office worker. I also focused on the coffee shop, and over the years, I've opened 5 branches one after another, all doing quite well. The manager of the 5th branch called and said they've developed a new product, asking me to come over and try it, while I was eating. I spotted Lucas at the checkout counter. On such a cold day, his face was flushed red from the heat, and he was carrying over a dozen cups of coffee. This was very unusual. Didn't he say he was the director? Why would a director come down personally to buy coffee, and so much of it? I picked up the freshly brewed coffee from the counter and followed him. I hid by the door and only then realized that he hadn't been as relaxed as he claimed these past few days. He wasn't any director. Not even a basic employee. At best, he was just an errand boy. If someone needed documents delivered, he went. If someone needed files copied, he went. Even the toilet in the bathroom was broken, and he had to be the one to fix it. No wonder he was exhausted every day after work. I was waiting for him in the hallway, and he ran right into me as he came out of the bathroom. I never expected someone as important as the director to personally fix the toilet. I'm really a bit angry that I've been wronged at work, and yet I don't say anything about it when I get home. Is it because you can't let go of your pride, or because you don't see me as one of your own? His expression changed, then he smiled with relief. Why are you here? Watching you fix the toilet. I shoved the coffee into his hand with annoyance. Stop fooling around. The shop where you bought the coffee is mine. He probably knew I was angry, so when we got home that night, he took the initiative to talk about it. The Leo family holds some influence in the business world. I once competed with him for business, drove him to bankruptcy, and he's held a grudge ever since. Plus, I was too eager to expand the company earlier and made quite a few enemies. These people, big and small combined, cover almost more than half of the bosses in this city. At first, when I sent out my resume, it was like throwing a stone into the sea, no response. Simply put, Lucas was effectively blacklisted from the industry. These bosses also have friends and relatives, with just one call, who would want him. If he could get into the current company, it was probably with the intention of mocking and deliberately humiliating him. Come to my place. Help me manage the shop, and I'll pay you. Lucas didn't agree. He quit his current job, turned around and registered as a delivery driver, ready to deliver food. Once a big boss who casually signed contracts worth tens of millions, now he's going to deliver food. The contrast is too great, and I feel somewhat upset. No job is too humble. What's most important for me right now is to have an income to support myself. With Lucas as my inside man, I quickly learned within just 1 week which restaurants were clean and which ones to avoid. Sometimes, if I hadn't figured out the restaurant situation and ended up ordering from an unhygienic place, he would call and ask me to cancel the order. Occasionally, when luck was on my side, Lucas would be the one to receive my order. I figured out the pattern and had him wait outside the store where I was going to place an order in advance, so he could deliver it right away, and we would eat together. Later, every time it was mealtime, he would proactively ask me what I wanted to eat, without needing to place an order, and he would just buy it and bring it over. I transferred $10,000 to him. What is this? For the meals. Are you an idiot? Why would you need $10,000 just for a meal? He wanted to keep things clear with me and insisted on paying me rent, even though I was just learning from him. Didn't you say you didn't want to take advantage of me? I won't take advantage of you either. Even brothers keep careful accounts. I used his own words to shut him up, and he had nothing to say. In the end, we didn't collect the full amount, only $1,000. A sudden scream came from the shop. Kathy, the waitress, had coffee splashed all over her by a customer. What's going on? You're messing with the wrong person. What's wrong with your staff? This is a limited edition outfit. Can you even afford to pay for the damage? The customer was a big, burly man who clearly looked like trouble. You deliberately bumped into my coffee and made me spill it. Kathy said. The two of them each had their own version of the story, so I went to the cashier to check the surveillance footage. The customer had his back to the camera, so it was impossible to tell whether he did it on purpose. Kathy is usually meticulous and careful in her work, so deep down, I was inclined to believe her. There's no way to get to the bottom of such matters. Sometimes it's better to just pay to avoid trouble. But he made an exorbitant demand, claiming his clothes were luxury items and asked for $100,000 in compensation. I refused. He says they're luxury items, but he didn't provide any proof. Does he think I'm an easy target? In the heat of the argument, the man got enraged and knocked over tables and chairs, scattering them everywhere. I was about to step in to stop him, but Lucas held me back. Don't go up. She told me to hide well, then stepped forward and subdued the man herself. The police arrived quickly. After investigation, it was found that the man's clothes were just ordinary and not valuable at all. In the end, he ended up having to compensate for the damages in the store. Over the years of running this business, I have always emphasized cleanliness and hygiene, and I frequently train my staff to maintain a good attitude. In business, harmony is what brings wealth. All these years, there has never been a single unpleasant incident, but over the past month, issues have been cropping up every now and then. It's either this restaurant having cockroaches, or that restaurant having dissatisfied customers demanding refunds. What's more, some people even demand compensation if they slip and fall in the store. Except for calling the police when necessary, we can only apologize and compensate. The business of several stores has been severely affected, with a significant drop in customer traffic. How's your shop been lately? Lucas asked me. I told him the truth. He's smarter than me, so he'll definitely be able to spot what's wrong. Did you offend someone? Offend someone? Impossible. After all these years, if I were going to offend anyone, I would have done it long ago. Why wait until now? How about you go and watch over it for a few days? He can keep an eye on things for a few days, and then I'll use the excuse that the shop isn't safe to make him stay. Turning a temporary job into a permanent one means he won't have to work so hard delivering takeout anymore. I was just afraid he would refuse, but he didn't even hesitate and agreed right away. With Lucas in charge, the shop indeed became much more peaceful. He was tall and muscular, and just by standing there, anyone thinking of causing trouble would think twice. However, no sooner had one problem been resolved than another arose. The store suddenly received a call from a partner, saying they could no longer supply us. When I asked for the reason, they wouldn't say. They only told me that they would terminate the contract, even if it meant paying a penalty. The shop needs fresh ingredients every day, and I don't have time to argue, so I have to look for a new supplier. Lucas is coming with me to check them out. Don't worry, we'll definitely find a better one. But things didn't turn out as optimistically as we thought. Almost all the suppliers were unwilling to work with us. I'm starting to believe what Lucas said. Someone is definitely targeting me, and this person has quite a bit of influence. Before I could even sort out my thoughts, the culprit came knocking on my door. Leo swaggered in with his lackeys, looking like he was ready to enjoy the show. I never expected that Lucas, the big CEO, would one day live off a woman. Were you behind all the incidents these days? Lucas clenched his fist, and if I hadn't held him back, he would have already thrown a punch. This is just the appetizer. If you don't want to see your old flames shop shut down, you'd better get the hell out of here. I just can't stand seeing you live a good life. I want you to end up homeless, begging on the streets and eating garbage. How dare you go this far? I picked up the glass of lemon water from the table and poured it over Leo's red hair. Too bad it wasn't hot enough. This is my turf, now get out. Humph, it won't be for long. Leo's words were like a curse, echoing in my ears every day. I know exactly what kind of person Lucas is. He would never allow himself to drag me down. Since there's no work and no business right now, I might as well close the shop for a while and follow him every day. I'm just afraid he might run off again without a word one day. Even at night, I shamelessly cling to his bed and sleep with him. He said helplessly, "What happened to the most basic trust between people? You have a record, so your credibility is zero with me. I'm not leaving. There's always a way to solve it." He couldn't stand my clingy behavior and sighed, saying, "You said it. If you run away again this time, I'll really go hire a male model. Lucas chuckled lightly. Can a male model serve you better than I do? Hot hands slid down my spine, sneaking into my pajamas and wreaking havoc. The long-lost passion left me dazed. After being a monk for so long, has he finally come to his senses? Sister is going to indulge tonight. That night, I was so exhausted that I slept until noon. When I woke up, I found Lucas was gone. He just left me a message, telling me not to look for him. That scoundrel, he lied to me again. As expected, I got blocked again, worse than last time. This time not only my phone number was blocked, but all my social media accounts were blocked too. Does he think I have no other options? Humph, how naive. I spent tens of thousands of dollars to buy traffic and searched for him across the entire internet. The power of netizens is immense. Within less than half a day, people started posting photos of chance encounters with him in the comments section. The most recent one showed him moving bricks at a construction site in City B. After confirming the address, I drove straight over. This time, I wasn't in such a good mood and immediately started yelling at him without holding back. Are you even human? Hit it and quit it. Even animals have more feelings than you. Do you think you're some kind of hero, sacrificing yourself to protect me? Do you think you're in a TV drama? Let me tell you, I don't care. You want to run away, is that it? Fine, from now on, whether you live or die has nothing to do with me. Even though I was the one scolding him, Lucas didn't say a word, yet I couldn't help but cry first. What a disgusting man. Does he really think he's some kind of treasure? As if I can't live without him. I'm going to block him as soon as I get back. We'll never have anything to do with each other again. The construction site was crowded and full of prying eyes. With many people gathering to watch the commotion, Lucas pulled me to his place, wrung out a towel, and helped me wipe my face. Get lost, I don't need your fake kindness. I turned my face away. He walked to the other side and wiped for me again. How did you find me? None of your business. Are you hungry? What's it to you? Lucas put the towel back and let out a soft sigh. You shouldn't have come. Being with me will only bring you harm. Arrogant. Who does he think he is, making decisions for me? In his eyes, am I the kind of person who can only share joy but not hardship? Lucas crouched in front of me, looking up at me. His dark eyes were turbulent with emotion, resolute and determined. This is the last chance I'm giving you. If you hadn't come looking for me, I would never have bothered you again. But you came. Then, even if I'm forced into a corner and have to beg for food, I will never let you go again. Oh. He seemed surprised by my cold reaction and repeated it again. Oh, I see. Being firmly chosen by someone, this feeling can really become addictive. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him. Deal. After the meal, I took out my bank card and placed it in front of him. Take it to start your business. Lucas is ambitious, talented, and full of aspirations. He would never be content working for someone else his whole life. These days, he has been working to earn money, partly to support himself and partly to save up for a comeback. He didn't want to accept my money before, keeping things clear between us. Now that we've talked it out, refusing would just be pretentious. Aren't you afraid I'll squander it all? If you squander it all, you can pay me back with your body. Even if we lose everything, we won't starve to death. I bought a house myself and rented it out. At worst, we can live off the rent, and those coffee shops, if sold, would bring in a lot of money. Lucas kissed my forehead. Thank you. Oh my God, this is even more captivating than doing it directly. City A is Leo's territory. We won't gain any advantage by going back. Lucas chose City B as the base. It's not too late to return after accumulating enough capital. The coffee shop reopened, and I started traveling between cities A and B. In the early stages of starting a business, money is needed everywhere. By helping Lucas, we can save on hiring one less person. He doesn't want to see me so exhausted and asked me to go back. No. I'm afraid you'll run off with my money, I joked. Lucas laughed. If I were to run, I'd take you along with me. The early stages of starting the business went relatively smoothly, with the company gradually expanding and hiring more employees. After accumulating some capital, he slowly began expanding his business to City A. City A is a big cake that no businessperson can ignore. Can't we just stay in City B? What if Leo and the others find out? Where you fall, there you rise. Obviously, it can't be. Lucas was holding back his anger, not only towards those who had suppressed him before but also towards that good brother who had betrayed him. My worries were indeed justified. After Lucas secured several contracts in City A, we caught Leo's attention. He used his influence to suppress Lucas, forcing us to withdraw from City A, but we are no longer the powerless underlings we once were. Moreover, Lucas's capabilities are evident to all. Those who want to make money won't easily give up on collaborating with him. When coercion failed, Leo resorted to directly using force to tie me up. Several men in black got out of the car and told me to go with them. What if I don't go with you? Then don't blame us for not being gentle. A wise woman knows when to yield. The road was remote, and they outnumbered me. There was no way to escape. Leo is a playboy, always indulging in wine and women, so the places he frequents are naturally not the most respectable. I was taken to a high-end private club. In the private room, he was holding a few girls and blowing smoke rings. From time to time, he would pinch the girls, making them giggle. Want a smoke, he said. You are breaking the law. Kidnapping someone in broad daylight, lawless and unrestrained, who has evidence? If I, Leo, give the word, who can do anything about it? What an arrogant tone. He walked up to me, pinched my cheeks, and forced me to look at him. I've never tasted Lucas's woman before. Just thinking about how he would react when he finds out I had you, it's bound to be hilarious. He pulled at my clothes. In the struggle, I felt the wine bottle on the table. Without thinking much, I just thought, at worst, it would be a lose-lose situation. The bottle smashed down on his head and shattered instantly. Blood streamed down his face. Do you think by forcing yourself on me, you can surpass Lucas? He can make me willingly follow him. You're far from it. Lucas started from scratch and secured a place among the wealthy elites in City A, making him a role model for many affluent parents to educate their children. Many second-generation heirs are unconvinced and secretly compete with Lucas, trying to outdo him. When they couldn't succeed in business, they turned their minds to other places. Leo laughed in anger, reached out and slapped me, making my head buzz. He gritted his teeth and said, "Let's see how long you can stay tough." He locked me up, took away my phone, gave me only a little water each day, and one meal every 3 days. I was so hungry that I saw stars. I wonder how anxious Lucas must be. That night, Leo suddenly sent someone to pick me up. The private room was even more chaotic than last time, with men and women in disheveled clothes, making a ruckus. Do you know why I called you here today? That guy Lucas, for your sake, gave up all the business in his hands to me. When it came to what I wanted to discuss, he tucked his tail like a dog and didn't dare say a word. Now, I'm afraid he's not far from bankruptcy. No one knows better than I do how hard Lucas worked on this startup. Many times when I went to pick him up, he was so drunk he couldn't even stand steadily. He even ended up in the hospital. That scumbag Leo just casually destroyed someone else's hard work. Mr. Leo, you're so mighty. Mr. Leo, well done. The people around him began to flatter and praise him. They were celebrating his success. I wasn't the center of attention at the party, and soon no one paid any mind to me. I sat in the dark corner, watching them coldly. A skinny little man suddenly sidled up to Leo, mysteriously pulling out a bag of white powder. "Brother, want something exciting?" "Well, what is this?" Leo was heavily drunk, his speech starting to slur. "Good stuff." Leo hesitated, straining his eyes to see what was in front of him. With a glance from the short man, the woman beside him moved closer, coquettishly bringing the tin foil up to his nose. This fool is practically asking for death. How could anyone dare to touch those things? The group of them were getting high, feeling euphoric and dazed. Perhaps they were used to acting lawlessly. Or perhaps they thought I would eventually follow Leo and become one of them, but not a single one of them remembered to avoid me. Leo's suppression of Lucas was still ongoing. He said Lucas was competing for the Child.The group's order. This was his last chance. If he fails, he will go bankrupt again. Unfortunately, Lucas doesn't stand much of a chance. Want to help your old flame? You know what to do later, right? I know. He just wants me to abandon Lucas and leave him with nothing, doesn't he? However, I never intended to take this opportunity to escape. I will do as he says. Leo is nothing but trouble, always popping up at the worst times to annoy people, and it's really irritating to see. Since I happen to know his weak spot, I might as well use this chance to eliminate him once and for all, so I don't have to deal with him anymore. Lucas would be the one to suffer. It had been days since we last met, and he had lost a lot of weight. Even though he had tried his best to look presentable, he couldn't hide the dark circles under his eyes. Ella, I've finally found you. He held me tightly, wanting to take me away. Lucas, let's break up. What? Lucas froze in place, his eyes filled with disbelief. You're not even worth one of Leo's fingers. Going bankrupt again, are we? I don't have any extra money to fund your business ventures again. I struggled in his embrace, but my hand discreetly slipped into his suit jacket and took the phone from his inner pocket. It was his habit to always keep his phone in the left inner pocket. He casually brushed his hand against his waist. He's lost weight, and my favorite muscles aren't as firm anymore. He paused almost imperceptibly, then held me even tighter, begging me over and over not to break up. Taking advantage of his movement, I slipped the phone into my sleeve. After doing all this, I pushed him away fiercely. Lucas suddenly collapsed, losing his spirit, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Are you serious? Of course. Leo, having seen enough of the commotion, stepped forward and put his arm around me. President Lucas, I'm sorry, but Miss Cooper happens to like me. I did as he said, but he didn't keep his promise. Instead, he claimed he would make sure Lucas couldn't survive in City A. We'll see who has the last laugh. In the evening, Leo took me to a private club, saying we should celebrate our success. I kept a cold face and didn't join them, and they didn't bother with me either, just doing their own thing. Before long, dozens of empty bottles had piled up on the table. These people, drunk, staggered around the room, swaying to the music. They brought out those mind-altering substances again. These days, Leo has been taking me to quite a few gatherings like this. I couldn't run away. I had no means of communication, and they trusted me completely. I hid in the darkness and quietly recorded everything, seizing the opportunity while going to the restroom. I sent the video and the address to Lucas. Be safe, wait for me. When the police arrived, the people in the room were high as a kite. Lucas carefully examined me from head to toe, and only after confirming I was fine did he slowly let out a sigh of relief. You've lost weight, he said. You're not yet, I said, laughing as I looked at him. It's finally over, and thankfully, everything turned out fine. This is an upscale club, frequented by the wealthy and famous, so paparazzi are often stationed outside. Once a piece of news breaks, it can keep them going for quite a while. Originally, Leo's family could have used their connections to resolve this matter quietly without anyone noticing, but now it's different. These paparazzi, armed with their cameras, have been snapping away from the shadows, and the situation blew up overnight. The entire nation found out, and the higher-ups made it clear that they would not tolerate any criminal behavior. The investigation proceeded quickly, according to the police report. Leo not only used drugs himself but was also involved in trafficking, ultimately receiving the death penalty. His family also suffered the consequences. People no longer trusted the Lincoln Corporation, and their products faced severe sales stagnation. Other companies, fearing they would be tainted by association, terminated their contracts with them one after another. In less than a year, the Lincoln Corporation declared bankruptcy. Lucas seized the opportunity to capture the market and rose rapidly. Without any villains causing trouble, he quickly expanded the company to a scale larger than before. As for the good brother, who had once betrayed him, he could only struggle to survive under Lucas's pressure and went out of business before long. Extra chapter. I am so happy that I can be taken care of again, getting $20,000 for free every month. Just patrolling the shops and going shopping when I feel like it is really great. However, someone's face is getting darker by the day. Darling, can I apply for a permanent position? No, I flatly refused. Being in a committed relationship is so troublesome. You have to be a good girlfriend, and maybe even get married. Just thinking about it is unbearable. A purely transactional relationship is much more reliable. Late that night, after their workout, he tossed a pile of things onto the bed: bank cards, property deeds, funds, stocks, this is all my savings. If I get the permanent position, it will all be yours. By then, you'll be the one paying my salary every month. Paying the big boss a salary, it's quite amusing when you think about it. Well, I suppose I'll reluctantly agree, just so we're clear, I'm not after your money. I know, he chuckled. How much do you want per month? I asked. 10,000. 10,000. So much. He usually goes between the company and home. Where would he need so much money? Then, 5,000. I looked at him without speaking. At least 1,000. Can't go any lower than that. 500. 800, he bargained. 300. There's no minimum, only lower. All right, 500 it is. Little money grubber. I call this being thrifty. Since there's no extra allowance, you can't shortchange me on other things. What? Before I could react, he pulled the blanket over and pressed down on me. After Lucas's career took off, there was no shortage of women trying to get close to him. On the rare occasion I went to his company to bring him coffee, I happened to see a curvaceous girl deliberately falling into his arms. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and didn't let the girl touch him, or else he wouldn't be allowed to enter the house today. Husband. I shouted in the lobby, and everyone looked over, causing a stir. I don't come here often, and I don't want our relationship to be known by everyone. So many people in the company don't even know I exist. But now, it's time to claim my territory. Hey, before you latch onto him, you should open your eyes and take a good look. He doesn't even have $1,000 on him. He can't afford your expensive tastes. This beautiful woman is covered in luxury items from head to toe, and Lucas really can't afford it. He doesn't have much pocket money to begin with, yet he saved it all up to buy me a gift. No spare cash. Nonsense. How could a big CEO like him not be able to afford it? The beauty snapped at me. If you don't believe me, ask him. Lucas cleared his throat. Sorry, but at home, I rely on my wife for pocket money. And also, you're fired. The beautiful woman left in tears. I turned to Lucas and smiled. Your allowance for this month is gone. That evening, he posted his first update on social media. Henpecked, do not disturb. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.